Elle had a great question about what to do if this happens.
What happened, honey?
Now, I'm not going to tell you how to bring your jeans murderer to justice, though I do have ideas.
I think I might be in the doghouse.
But let's take this victim, our seemingly impossible repair, over to the sewing table and have a look at it. It's ripped down the side of the pocket, across the top of the pocket. The belt loop has totally come loose. There's no structural support there, and we've got a hole here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to press this and maneuver it all into place so that all the parts of the fabric are meeting as closely as they possibly can. And we're going to use the iron to hold it down.
Let's see, what could I do to make it up to her? Flowers? Candy? Another pair of jeans.
Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 pieces of denim. Yes, 2. But it's already too thick and I'm breaking my needles and I can't get over the hump. I know. Have a little faith. We're going to get to that. 2 layers of denim underneath.
I don't think you can fix it. I think it's a goner.
I've heard people use interfacing for this, and frankly, it's not sturdy enough. It is a nice support to do what I'm doing now, which is just hold all the threads and everything in place so that when we sew it down, they can be nice and secure. But I am just using a glue stick. This will wash out the first time that the jeans are washed, to put all of these little layers together, and I'm tucking all the white little threads to the back as much as possible. And using that glue is going to hold them in place back there. So you need a little bit right up here and along there. So we want to get all the white parts to not show. Tucking those under.
I hate belt loops. I want to see them all come undone. Is that bad?
Do you think you can cut them off, but I find that just tucking them under, you preserve fabric, and that's just that much more sturdiness in this little area. Okay, now that glue is really just to hold all these little ends, but it is not sturdy enough around these heavy seams, and even interfacing would not be sturdy enough to hold it all in place. So I'm also going to pin this. And one little trick for pinning is that when you put your pin all the way through, put that end in through an extra layer. That way you'll just poke yourself a few fewer times, right? Because it's trapped in between the different layers. I folded this pocket down so that we could get at that area, and I want to be on either side of the rip. So anywhere that there's a rip, there's 2 sides of it, I want to have a pin there. Look at that. It already looks like magic. Check it out. See? So much better, and we haven't even sewn it together yet. Okay, setting up my sewing machine. I start with a thread that's going to kind of match my fabric and a denim needle. To match my thread, I used to think that you took the spool of thread and you put it next to the fabric. A better technique is to pull a strand out and lay it across your fabric. And the more it disappears, the better match it is. In this case, you can see that the denim thread is actually a better match than the navy. So one of the first obstacles you might encounter is that the denim is just too thick to get under your presser foot. So if you don't know, that same lever that drops your presser foot down can also lift it up and back. So you can push it up higher to get your fabric underneath. Since I'm sewing with matching thread, because I want you to see how this turns out, I'm going to use a little visual aid here so you can see where the stitches are actually going down, because it won't always be obvious when I'm sewing on the garment. I'm going to start with sewing down the double layers of denim to the sturdiest pieces, which are the seam lines. So I will go right next to the seam. I like to think of this as scaffolding. And once we have that in place, we can start to take most of the pins out so we don't poke ourselves. When I get to the belt loop area, I back tack. Oh, it's catching on something on my feet back there, baby. Okay, and then I jump over, or, you know, kind of move around and then back tack again and sew down on the other side. So I'm not dealing with the belt loop yet, but I want to make sure it stays free. After I get these sturdy pieces sewed down, I like to cut off some of the excess of my patches in the back. And I didn't measure these. I just used something that I knew was way larger than what I needed. And I will cut off the excess as I move through the project. And I'm just taking out the couple layers that stick out the end to make things easier to maneuver. Here you can see that where I've stitched right next to the stitch line, sort of in that shadow area, it's very hard to see. And here on the second seam where I didn't get as close to the stitch line, you can see the new stitch. Now we're going to sew around the edges of the ripped area and stabilize those little delicate parts that can come unglued and wreak havoc. So I'm just going around every part of the rip that I can. It's very helpful to roll up the jeans when you're trying to get the jeans to go through the middle of the sewing machine, and leave your needle down for every turn. That's what holds your fabric and your stitch in place when you're turning your fabric. So you have this big heavy denim that's going to fight with you and move out of place otherwise. So now we've got our big lines down and we've got our delicate lines down. Now we're going to do a bunch of parallel lines to make the body of the patch. And this is going to be, you know, anywhere between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch apart, depending on how sturdy you want your patch to be. Now you want these lines to go with the grain of the jeans. So not the diagonal line that you see, that's a product of twill weave. That's what denim is made of, is twill, but up and down. And I like to stagger where I do my turn, and I also take it at a diagonal. So I'm not going right across the grain, I'm going sort of up and at an angle, and that helps hide the transitions. And we want this body of the patch to go about 2 inches out from any of the ripped areas. All right, we've got our scaffolding, we've got our delicate parts, we've done our main stitching, and then where the areas have white showing, I take a wide short zigzag, so like 0.5, and I just satin stitch over that area until it really doesn't show very much. A satin stitch is just a really tight zigzag, and it's good for it's like coloring with thread, and you can just cover things up with it. And you could be more detailed than I want to be, but here, let's look at what I've done in close-up. You can go for total coverage, or you can be like me and just get things secured down. Now it's time to reinforce some key areas. Okay, so the two main areas that we want to reinforce that are not attached to anything is our belt loop and our pocket. Remember, there are tears right next to those areas, so we want to attach them to our double layer of denim on the back. Here's my pop quiz for you. What way do you think we should do that? Fabric glue, a stapler, add rivets, or stitch next to the top stitching and zigzag along the top? You probably got your clue from what you see people do all the time on professionally made garments. I feel like any reinforcement stitch is going to be fine, whether it's zigzag or a little box stitch or just many up and down stitches. Whatever makes your little heart happy, just make sure that that pocket is actually secured to those back layers, because that tear right next to it is not holding it down. Now we are getting into the challenging areas, the areas where you fear to tread, where the machine does not want to go. And you're going to be tempted to pull that fabric to get it under the needle, and you're saying, Stacy, I told you 7 layers is too thick. And dang, even with the denim needle, hey, get in there. It busted. Oh, don't worry, we have more, we can fix it. Okay, pop quiz. What do you think we need to fix this? A better needle, an industrial strength sewing machine, a special stitch that you don't know about, a wedge behind the thick part of the fabric, or hand cranking? Well, lots of these could be helpful, but in my experience, there's one thing that makes a huge difference, whereas all the others are, maybes. We are officially calling out the big guns. A wadded up piece of paper. Let me show you. All right, so if you look at the presser foot from the side, you can see that it's sort of going uphill here. And that is what's causing it to stall out. And if you can make it go downhill instead, it's going to be a really natural action and it's going to take care of everything by itself without you having to pull on it. So this is where our wadded up piece of paper comes in handy. We put it behind the needle and now the presser foot is headed downhill. All right, let's find out if it works. So now I've got my little wedge in place. This is a moment of truth here. Shall I hand crank it? Yes, let's just hand crank it a little. It can be really helpful if you're not confident about how things are going to go to hand crank it. And can it do it? Yes, it went through and woohoo! We are home free. Yes, we have made it through the hump. Oh, I think it looks good. Can somebody give me a happy dance? All right, and we are back in business. Take that, David.
She fixed them? Oh man, that's awesome.
I really think from here on out, I think we've got it. It's all downhill, our downhill, get it? And we are ready for some finishing touches. I just want to turn it inside out so that I can cut some of that excess fabric off of the back. And I'm going to just cut it really close to the patch. I'm not going to worry about finishing these edges. If it's close to that seam line, that's going to hold all those threads in place pretty well. And from a distance, it looks pretty good. If you want it to look even tidier, you could put a little patch or decoration on top of that.
Now that they're fixed, I'm not in the doghouse anymore.
The jeans live to see another day. And you are saving 1,500 to 7,000 gallons of water. 7,000 gallons of water. A small repair can make a big difference. And look at this. Stronger than ever. Hey, Nikki, hey, stop it. Well, if you have other repairs you want to do or you want to learn more about working with denim, I highly recommend my 2-part denim series. Not only will you make a really cute bag, but you're going to learn so much about how to wrangle your wranglers.